Hello and most welcome to 1076 of the Heidegger series, and I will today talk about truth and untruth, falsehood, the opposite of falsehood, the polarity of falsehood and truth, versus real and unreal. This has connection to things like future, which is sort of an untrue as well. Have you thought about that? The future is never here, so it has to be by definition untrue. None of the sciences are working with the future. It's never part of any project. Past also seem to have a rather similar position. Perhaps a little bit better, but not much. Some advantage. I think we first encountered this discussion about truth and untruth in Derrida, where he usually says that what is false is marginalized, and the true is becoming something that is more important, more decisive, of greater importance. But of course, at the very same time, ultimately truth becomes dependable on what is not, because it's defined in what it's not. So false first is a supplement, and then it becomes something of a cannibalistic, parasitic tendency that takes over truth. Heidegger goes deeper into this, and remember aletheia theia. Here everything is of a different foundation. It doesn't make any sense to say that anything that we think, propose, direct or refer to can in some sense be untrue. Apart from the very trivial I'm lying to someone for a reason, untrue in a general sense, in a global sense, doesn't really make, oddly enough, much sense, if any sense at all. If it's not from this world, where is the untrue coming from, the global untrue? The scapegoat for everything that is bad, the thing that we should throw out of the agora, of the church, the lesser thing that doesn't stem from reality. This is the start of the transcendental action. We infer something transcendental, we say that truth is not part of the world, it's untrue. And it can also be unreal. And that is one major polar opposition, real, unreal. Very similar to here and there, where here is true and there, which we cannot truly see, it's further away, out of reach, it is not as truthful. Might be even more clear when it comes to tomorrow, the future. It is completely absent. From the future, no truths can be derived, and we cannot use our now to tell us what tomorrow is going to be. We can only predict. Of course, in some worlds, the Einsteinian worldview, especially the Einsteinian worldview of himself, he captured everything. He captured the past, he captured the future, everything was within his system. Niels Bohr truly objected. Vi kan ikke fortælle, hvor Gud skal se og lære. You cannot tell what God is going to think or do. Stark contrast to the quote of Einstein that is never confirmed. God does not throw dice. It is very interesting because it goes around exactly the same problematic. We think we can discard with a huge portion of reality, and that is the future, that is the not here, and that is the falsehood. And somehow we claim it's not of this world, it's not belonging here. Untrue is otherworldly. Well, that could be attacked in many ways. Somehow our neurons coming from the world can construct things that are not of the world. Sort of an emerging untrue in the neurons. Possibly I could accept that could be a value difference or a quantifiable difference, but an absolute difference, saying that certain thoughts are absolutely wrong, doesn't really make sense. It sounds a Puritan, harsh way of looking at things. All very Greek in a way. I think, my opinion, goes with an idea of being tensed, not being in the body, not being here, not being able to relax out into space unto now, but also relax into the future and in the past. And what is often referred to as the controlling tendency in modern man, wanting to control everything, could actually be that absolute lack of control that directly happens in the very same moment that you say that some parts of the world yourself are not of this world, are transcendental, otherworldly. That is in itself very problematic, and it causes this friction in reality where you don't feel at ease. You're not like these dogs, relaxed. I think for human beings there is actually a much greater level of relaxation, of ease, of space. It also brings me to thinking about mindfulness, where we are encouraged to sort of shut some thoughts out that are bad, that are disturbing, that are not part of the clear thought. They are vrittis, as we mistakenly call them sometimes. Disturbances, get rid of those. Or some more lenient descriptions, observe them and they will dissolve. How about saying it this way? Could it be that the very idea of an absolute distinction between inner and outer is the start of the problem? That we try to keep everything within ourselves clean, non-disturbing thoughts, but thereby we shut everything outside ourselves out as well, and we create limitation of reality, tension. What needs to be done is a complementarity of inner and outer, and that in the end, I think it would end that you see that there is no real difference between inner and outer. So if you have that sort of understanding, let me quote Jack Petranker from page 109 of the book written or edited by him, A New Way of Being. It's the last paragraph on the page. This way of understanding what is going on depends on putting into play a particular model of experience. In this model, we acknowledge a tendency to get caught up in what's going inside us, inside our experience. This tendency keeps us from being fully present. It may be the thoughts we are having, but often there is an emotional tone. For instance, you have a conversation that upsets you. Later you're walking in the sunshine, enjoying the day, when you remember the conversation. For a minute or so you lose track of everything else, and the good feeling of the day disappears. Does that sound familiar? Here could be a good idea to sort of practice on an everyday basis. No inside, no outside. And saying that there is no difference between the two circumstances, between being present in your outer environment and being present in your emotions. Or rather, there is a difference because being caught in your emotions is not being present in your emotions. If you were present, the emotion might not stay in emotion. But that just confirms the basic point of there being no real difference. I think this is to the point, and this is one of the reasons there is some real problems with mindfulness. Without really getting into the deconstruction of inner and outer, every time you sort of look into yourself and try to either take away negative thinking or dissolve them by just observing them, you are creating more and more distance between inner and outer. And there is where the problem starts. I believe we human beings, we don't have distinct areas of observation like inner and outer. We are much more like the Klein bottle, where inside and outside is always the same, and acquiring both of them makes both of them stronger. Neglecting one is making both of them weaker. So one unified field of attention could be a better word, or that word is rather too much of a handful for me, I would say, but we should be careful to think of focus, awareness, attention as something being entirely inner. And we should also be careful to think of attention, awareness as being something absolutely outer. It is both. And of course that willingness to make a distinction is usually what is causing the problem. Better to see awareness as something that is both inner and outer at the very same time. And how all that might sound This is one of the really difficult oppositions to get around or lean up or make more flexible, more transparent, open them up as to make possible more space, more expanse, and more awareness. Having more space around you, oddly enough, means that more awareness can come into action, into play. It's like having a bigger theater. More actors can come in and you can observe more of them. You gain in all directions, in all paths. Both here and there is gained. As well, I would say with time, both absence of time and presence of time are gained in the very same instant. And the tension, the bodily tension that is always present once we try to sort of discard one part, can become an ache, becomes a habit of thinking and of being. That habit goes very deep into our foundation, into our Dasein, if you use a Heideggerian term. This is of course one of those things that leads to a dichotomy in thinking that is frustrating, very hard to uphold, and once you're trying to get more awareness, more thinking, more clarity, you would lose at the very same time what you have around you, and then you also lose the inside. They are deeply interconnected. Just like in the Klein bottle, the inside and the outside are the very same thing. Not accepting them to be that makes there cannot be an inside uphold, and neither can there be an outside uphold at the very same time. I had to put in a pointer here, something that has been noticed with patients suffering from different mental infirmities like schizophrenia. They are quite unable to lie. When I say lie, is to lie in a conventional sense, contradict what's around them. They are sort of stuck in the truth of the now. And since they are stuck in the now, how can they enter into the future? They have already sort of decided what the future is. And of course this makes for tension. That makes also for limitation of what is possible. You think about that stronger and stronger, you realize, how can a person live who has all the knowledge of future already? Could be maybe a very scholared person who, well, should give an example here, not mentioning his name, trying to learn the encyclopedia by heart, and then he will know the whole world, and then thereby it would be impossible for him to have any lies. He has all the truths. How can he enter into the future? Because the future is in itself an untrue. It is not something that is true. It hasn't happened yet. It is a lie, it's a fantasy, it is a myth, it's an impossibility. I would say the limit is set the moment you think you know it all. And this is also of course what establishes that division I said before, truth and untruth, falsehood and truthhood, real or unreal. The problem with the schizophrenic patient is not that he's living in a fantasy. He only has reality, nothing else. He's stuck in a reality. He lost everything else. He lost imagination. He lost creativity. He lost lying to himself, which could be very helpful if you're sick or something. How to get out of bed. My knees are hurting. My back is causing me pain. The only way to get out of bed is to lie to yourself and say it's going to get better. Magically, this is what going to cause everything to get better. It's your ability to lie. And as you see, lying is not only part of this world. Where else could it stem from? Either it's created in our neurons or comes from our spirit, but all those things are part of the world. They're not transcendental, created in this world in which we have always already been cast into. How can it be unreal? I'd say it cannot. And shutting those things away will cause problems. I would say the complementarity of truth and untruth is very similar to aletheia and theia. Do not mistake a certain interpreters of Heidegger to say that one is untrue and one is true. No, they are both untrue and true at the same time. And it's in the complementarity, use a quantum mechanical word, or in the Lichtung of them both, that everything develops, everything comes to fruition. I think something that haunts modern man is, in the end, trying to shut out everything that is absence, everything that is not here, everything that is not drawn into this massive light. I usually think about these fluorescent lightnings, way too strong above our heads, shining everywhere, eradicating all shapes, all distinctiveness, trying to put everything into the light, so everything is pure existence. There is no room for non-existence. And hey, when there's no room for non-existence, how can there be borders? How can there be limits? How can there be knowledge? None of those things can exist. Look at it this way. In order to make one ring, made one ring here, make another one. This will cover the first one. It's fair to say that the second one contains the first one, just like an absence is containing the presence in the previous one. So now this is present. When we put another one, we have the border. This is obscuring. This is covering in order to uncover. In a way, it's not that complicated. It's all too simple. And it might be too simple for our modern minds to try to see everything in regards with these things as very, very complicated. Here, oddly enough, this simplification leads to an expanse, an understanding that things do sit together in a very decisive way, not that shielded from each other, not disparate like this. None of these are close to each other. They don't have any allegiance, they don't have any connection. And once there is less connection, I would say there is less of everything. If you have a whole and all of a sudden preemptively you decide, let's cut off half of it and call that untruth, that whole, that original whole, that great whole will be much less, it will be not as fulfilling, as rewarding, as rich, it will be lacking. And of course, since there is no past either in this new way of being or this modern way of being, the lack will always already been there somehow, and it needs to be supplemented with more truths. And the more truths you put in, the more you will erode the whole system. It is not far from quantum mechanics, because once you decide on either wave or particle, the wave will be a complete untruth. Because it's the most opposite that exists in the universe to particle. Particle and wave are absolute opposites. So, like in the experiment of Alice and Bob, Alice's friend, Bob's friend, it will mean that we accept untruth to be part of reality, or we just observe it. We just ease into it, because I think the body tension and the mental tension are very anomalous. They're both tensions that shields us from reality, inner reality and outer reality. It makes us fearsome in the end, not being able to access what is presencing, what I showed earlier here on the floor, the sand, that showed that all those things are really part of reality. Trying to tense oneself, shutting things off that is around me, that I think is disturbing me, I will also shut out things in my inside, leading to less and less, where there could be more expanse instead, a relaxedness, easing out into more and more space. And all of a sudden you feel you can breathe again. I think this is truly a great exercise into letting space come into you, whether it's above, under, over, or to the left or to the right. And oddly enough, from this also comes locatedness. You know where you are in the universe. You're no longer lost. This is truly the wanderer finding his way back to the cottage, going up the steep hill, seeing things on his way and wanting to come home to the nice fireplace, the good food and the friendly love of his spouse and children. This is Heimlichkeit, not Unheimlichkeit. I think that view will end it to today. I say thank you very much and have a very pleasant afternoon.